One of the great things when we first met, this wasn't your specialty, what we were talking about. And so I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, but I understand this field and I know exactly each individual what their position is and what they should do within the drug and alcohol field. And you were willing to listen. I mean, you know this. There's a lot of doctors out there. In Orange County alone, there's a couple doctors that have multiple facilities that think they know everything, but they've never worked in this field. It's a completely different field than private practice, working with addiction, or at a hospital, or going to detox. So, in your work that you do now, what do you find when it comes to, say, not comparing yourself, but when you talk to other people and they say, well, this doctor, I always hear people say, well, somebody told me this, somebody told me that. Well, here's what I tell them. If you want to work with me or you want us to help you, here's what we're telling you. How many people have this preconception that they know from somebody else, and when you meet them, it opens up a light that they realize it's a completely different game? How many
Now,
addicts?
so you're talking about patients or you're talking about other doctors?
Both. Combination of both.
A combination of both. Well, listen, man, we're going into some deep waters here. So first and foremost, when I first started working with you was at a treatment center. I had
Yes.
not worked with any other treatment centers. They knew that. I came in completely honest. I think I had 2 years of sobriety and, and full of myself, but an open ear
Yep.
that and I really honed in on the people that were telling me what I needed to do to get where I needed to go. I was still very pragmatic. I was before and I am now. And I just had other people lay out the map for me. Believe it or not, Dennis, you were one of those people. And at first I was scared of you and I didn't want to make you upset. And then that fear soon
Jesus
left
Christ.
when I realized how actually sick you were and that you needed my help. So I had to really learn from you to help you.
Yeah.
Um, but then I wound up treating everybody else in the meantime.
Yeah.
I learned addiction medicine under the tutelage of the doctor that helped me get sober for 30 days at Mission Hospital. And I owe a lot to him, my life, my
Mm-hmm.
new training, my new life. And he introduced me to a whole new world of broken toys and people. I call it the island of broken toys. I found mine, I found my tribe, I fit in perfectly, and I saw that these were toys that were putting themselves back together more more perfect than they started. And that's
Mm-hmm.
very rare in medicine, is to get somebody well and then to get somebody better than they actually were. This is one
Yes.
specialty where you can actually do that.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's the beauty of this industry we're in. Like, three industries are never going anywhere. People are going to pass away. One, babies are going to be born, and drug and alcohol. And you have so many different doctors. You know, the work that I do, the work you do, we meet people who have preconception. It's like I work to help hire people at rehab centers, and they say, "Well, this is what I've done for 20 years." Well, this is what we want you to do. So that is an addict's mind, even if they're not an addict. And I think we both know, and I always let people know, the people sometimes who are in our industry behind the scene have more problems than the addicts who walk through the door. And a lot of people have their own way of doing things. With the work that you do now, because I know you work with different people, how often do you find people in your field who are willing to change and adapt? Because the bottom line is, it's not about how much we know, it's about how much we can gain. For me, knowledge, because I already know what I know. And, but I know that, I've worked with people with you, I've seen the outcome, I see how people respond to you. You're very open, very honest. How do you think that feels to other people rather than doctors who will not share those personal stories?
prior to getting sober, I was a closed book. I was a ghost. Nobody knew anything about me. I achieved positions where I could put myself in the ivory tower and give my edicts down to the hoi polloi, tell them what to do, and then go back up to my tower and not be bothered. This was different. This was breaking into a field where I knew I didn't know anything. I had to stay humble. I also knew that I was good at faking it until I made it kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
fake it until you
Hmm.
make it. And also, but I've got to admit, being sober and being a doctor in this field definitely gives you an advantage if you do it right. If you are, I don't know, honestly sober, transparently sober.
Yes.
My stuff was blown up from the very beginning. I couldn't hide behind anything. I was a naked man running from tree to tree, and they kept blowing the trees away. And then I figured I might as well just stand there. and I started singing, and people started listening,
Hmm.
and my patients and centers and treatment centers and other doctors, if I preceded who I am and what makes me me by what I do for a living, then everybody gets it. Everybody understands how I fall in line, and I don't appear so abnormal to people, which has
Well,
always
I
been a
think that
problem of mine. I've never fit in anywhere,
I
anywhere.
think that
People don't
I
fit
don't
in.
think, but I know it's like many people always say, "Well, you don't understand. You don't understand," and to a degree, we don't understand because we're separate people. But the fact is that you've gone through it. You understand it, what it's done to you from a financial point of view, from a family point of view, marriage point of view, kids point of view. You know it. So you've lived it. So when people say they don't understand, the beauty of someone like you is you could say, well, here's my story. Here's how I can relate to you. And I think a lot of times when we deal with therapists and doctors, many of them don't know how to relate because they've never experienced.